I'm John Payne. Welcome to Business as Unusual. This is a weekly session where we deep dive into how the likes of you and I, as salespeople, marketers, and business owners, can stay productive, profitable, and at peace during the pandemic and whatever comes after. This week, we're discussing why content matters more than ever, and therefore why you should think outside the blog. We're joined by the queen of content marketing and much more beside, Crystal Carter. Hi, Crystal.
Hi there, John. How are you?
I am really good, thank you.
Really good.
How are you?
I'm fine. Just about. I'm doing this interview or this session as I would if I were an Instagram blogger. I'm holding my phone, facing myself, so that we can get on and talk about this important topic.
What we'll try and do is by the end of this, have a selfie stick delivered by motorbike courier.
Yes, and I'll do one of these.
Classic.
As it were.
Crystal, you're a digital marketing strategist. What does one of those do from day to day?
Okay, so I'm a senior digital strategist.
Excuse me.
Basically just means I'm a bit long in the tooth at all of this. So I've been doing digital marketing and marketing generally since about 2005. So I got a really useful English literature degree, which I took into a country where everyone speaks English, and everyone's really impressed. And then I went and I've been working for lots of different companies. So I worked for a local government place, and then I also worked with, and then I've worked with Tomy, the toy company. It's like second largest toy company in the world. So I worked with them for a while in their sort of European market, and I worked on campaigns for Chuggington, the train.
Yeah, I remember Chuggington.
Yeah, Chuggington, Chuggington. Anyway,
wow, it's like the jingle singers that are in the room.
And then I've done, and I've been working with Optix for the last couple of years. And I basically help clients do whatever they want to do on the internet. I call it like winning at the internet. So basically, like, I try to make sure that when you go on Google Analytics, it's all green arrows. Like, that's my favorite thing. And I do a little dance at my desk and all of that. And one of the things that I love about about digital marketing, about SEO, about we do PPC. It's not my favorite thing in the whole wide world, but it's extremely useful, and I think it's really fun to sort of when you get into it. But one of the things I like about all of that is that with sometimes when you're doing marketing, particularly when you're doing traditional marketing, which it's where we all started. It's where I started. Sometimes it's hard to know, if somebody saw that leaflet, or if someone saw that poster, or, how many people exactly saw that television advert or whatever. But with digital marketing, like, you've got clicks, you've got views, you've got, time on page, you've got all of those sorts of really good indicators that are really useful, and it's difficult to argue with. So if you have that, then you can sort of show, like, this worked. We did it and it worked, and we should do more of this. And so it's a lot clearer. So I really like that. And I do, like, I call myself like the web lady. So I tend to be fairly responsive with my clients. So whatever people need, like, I'll help them with. Generally speaking, my main like thing is SEO, because it's so all encompassing. But if people need help with emails, if people need help with paid search, if people need help with social, whatever it is, and I help with all of that.
That's really cool. So we've got a really rounded view of it with some real super knowledge about old school mumarketing and SEO as well.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
Good. So you're clearly into the fact that we can measure and we can report on stuff. What's your favorite bit of your day to day?
I like seeing results. I just like seeing, like, are we swearing? Can we swear? Yeah. Okay. I like making the internet my bitch, basically. Right. It's like what it comes down to. Yes. Like, so the other day, or like a couple of weeks ago, actually, okay, so I've been working with a client on PPC, and we've been doing tons of PPC. They got a new website, and I was like, guys, this new website, we've got to do some stuff with it. Like you like, I'm doing PPC, but oh my God, let me off the bench on this SEO, please.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, now with all of everything changing and, you know, the world ending and the pandemic, all the blah, 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 basically they've stopped their PPC, but they've moved their spend to SEO. And
we like that. That pays salaries.
Right? I was like, fantastic. Like, let's let me at it. So I get in there, I'm talking with the devs and like, devs, this sitemap is a mess. Okay. You're missing out a whole chunk of the website that this gives you all of the, you know, the expertise, authority, and trust points, you know, like the returns policy and like the, you know, the address for the business. Like Google's going to look at that. And if they can't find that, they're going to go, who are these people? What are they selling? Like people shouldn't give them money because they don't even have an address. And so I talked to the devs, and they've redone the website or the sitemap so that it's dynamic, and it also includes all their images, which they're an e-commerce like clothing shop, so you've got to have all the images on there. And then and also includes all of these extra things, and it's fully dynamic. We did that on the 28th of April, and since we also updated the homepage, and which is another content point. And since we've done that, organic's up 50% compared to the time before. Whoa. And as far as traffic, revenue from organic's up 25%. And like, that's even within this time, and that's even within and they tend to cater to a market that is, their general market is the market that's been quite affected by all of these changes. So yeah. Like, I like seeing that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm looking at my watch, looking at the date. It's like, and I can't see the date because I got the wrong glasses on. But it's like, that's like under 3 weeks, and you're seeing 25% revenue increase from SEO.
Yeah.
I mean, correlation, causation, it correlates really heavily with you doing all of the right stuff and fixing the hygiene level stuff, and then going that extra level bit further. Wow, that's really cool. That's also my favorite bit, when people go, it's, for me, and this is probably why I'm bald, I quite just like getting patted on the head and told good boy. It sounds like you're a bit more proactive. You're making things your bitch. I'm not so good at making stuff my bitch.
Well, no, I think that's the other thing I like about Google is like, even if the client doesn't necessarily see like the little tiny uptick or whatever, like analytics will tell you like you're up this much percent, or like, you know, Search Console will tell you, you know, your impressions are up that much percent. Oh, that was the other thing on this particular one, just to like, I'm just super excited about this, by the way. Like the click through, so the impressions went down, the total impressions went down, but the clicks went up. Our click-through rate went up to the highest ever for the whole site in the last, like, and it like went, and they dropped from 28 to 15 in their ranking, their like domain ranking.
Wow.
Like yeah, so that's what I like. And so and I will do a happy little dance for myself. And yeah, that I like I don't mind who pats me on the head. If it's the clients or if it's Google or whatever, but like, I like seeing that. That's what I like seeing.
Nice. I think it's clear to all of us that you like that. Man, making the internet my bitch. That's just so perfect. So this is going to be great, because we're going to try and think about how the lovely people who've joined us on the call can do that. And Think Outside the Blog was a really good title of yours, but the more I talk to you, the more I realize why that is, because while content and all of that kind of stuff is king or key or whatever it is you want to say, actually you've got a lot of ideas outside of that, and I'm really excited to get into that. And this afternoon, well, hey, you could be watching this on again, so maybe it's this morning for you. But if you've been to Business as Usual before, you know that we look at three things. We look at the lack of money that people are suffering from, and you know, that's not going to go away for the next 12 months. Probably there are some high demand industries and great, but most of the people I come across are talking to me about the fact that their discretionary budget's gone. So they need to figure out how they can handle that. We talk about the abundance of uncertainty, and then we're going to talk about the opportunities that are available either now, and Crystal has just explained one of them that she is getting for her clients, and then maybe what's coming after. I mean, either that, Crystal, or we could just talk about the Last Dance documentary for half an hour.
I mean, I can talk about MJ and all those guys for eternity.
Yeah. Oh,
It's also got a fantastic soundtrack. That documentary.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
they keep picking, like they every time he walks into like a pickup game or to a playoff or whatever highlights they're showing.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're slowing down his walk or speeding it up. Normally slowing it down, I guess, slightly. But he seems to be stepping in rhythm to whatever of the favourite old school gangster track that they've got backing it up. It's
yeah. And also, like, I'm just generally a fan of like people walking in slow motion. Like, I love Peaky Blinders for the same reason. Like, literally, like Cillian Murphy comes down that hallway with his flat cap, and I'm like, yeah, he's walking places. Like,
ah, dear, this is going to be lovely. Right, let's stop talking about that nonsense and get on to sharing some of your ideas with the guys that we've got. So before we do that, we wouldn't be doing this together, although, man, I'd pay to be in your presence regardless. But we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't being paid to be here by something. So we'll get the adverts out of the way to begin with. Crystal is joining us from Optix Solutions. Tell us about how you help your clients.
So we are a full service sort of digital marketing agency and web design and web development. So the team that I'm mostly in, I'm in the digital marketing team. So, PPC, SEO, CRO, all the acronyms, alphabet soup, all that stuff. And we, make people get more clicks, get more leads, all of that sort of stuff. And then we also have a very, very clever team from our development team. So they are building websites. Our lead developer is a guy called Jack, who's 23 years old and is like literally like the smartest guy I know. They're fantastic. What I really love is when we're able to do projects where we do the website and the DM, because then we can respond really quickly to changes. So like if there's like we had a client who was a recruiter, and when we were talking about building the site, Google for Jobs didn't exist. Mm-hmm. The Google Jobs board didn't exist, and then after we built it, like right after we built it, Google for Jobs did exist, and so we just responded quickly and updated the site for them without having to deal with plugins and like all sorts of clunky things like that. Yeah. So I really love all that, and they're doing really cool stuff with like Python and content delivery networks and all sorts of like whizzy stuff, which I just love seeing all of that, even if I don't understand every working bit of it.
Yeah. As long as it's a component in bitch making of the internet.
Yes.
Cool. So that's one lot. The other people who are bringing you this is Noisy Little Monkey, which we do B2B business growth and cutting costs through good SEO, marketing automation, and sales enablement. I'm not going to go on too much about that because most of these people, as far as I can make out, have been on this call plenty of times and don't need to hear me prattle on. But we do normally start with some interesting stats to give us some context. And by the way, everybody in the chat, please fire questions in there. We'll answer them as we go. We normally get to the end of this and either people are too shy to ask questions or we've run out of time. So ask questions as we go. But while we're getting started, and this is actually something I spoke with Carrie from Rise at 7 about, is obviously this backlinko bit of content that they put out where they've reviewed nearly 12 million Google search results. And we were looking, and a lot of it was about the backlink signals, but actually, given what we're talking about today, it makes sense to have a look again at this stat, which is comprehensive content strongly correlates with higher rankings. So by comprehensive content, what would I mean, I can go on for ages. I'm an old white guy on a webinar. Crystal, what would you describe? What's comprehensive content in your view?
So comprehensive content is content that answers all the questions that people are asking, and that isn't shouting into the void.
Right.
So one of the things that, or if we're swearing, isn't pissing into the wind.
Yeah.
So basically, like, you shouldn't be making content just to hear yourself speak. You should be making content that people are actually looking for, and that people like, that it's answering a question or satisfying a need. So, and even if that need is silly, even if the need is like, you know, to have a laugh, that's fine. But also, you know, you should make sure that the content satisfies a need. So that backlinko study is actually a really good example of comprehensive content. So, you know, they've done a lot of research. They've presented it in a useful manner. They have included loads of links and loads of resources within it. And they have established themselves as experts in their field in order to explain why people should talk to them. And that is something, the why people should talk to you is something that's really, really important for, you know, not only for the domain, you know, for the content that you're making, but for your domain as a whole and for your presence as a whole. So I think one of the things about thinking outside the blog is, so with the Google, like with the recent Google update, right?
Yeah.
That happened on May the 4th. They and also with the one before that and the one before that. The thing you're constantly saying is Google is basically just like weeding out people who don't know what they're talking about, and they're weeding out people that don't that may very well know what they're talking about, but haven't demonstrated it either on site or off site. So it's great to have loads of content, but if you don't know what you're talking about, then like nobody cares, right? Like, and why should they listen to you? So I had a look at it. I was looking through. I think I sent a link to Claire, which I hope she'll be sharing with the group. So it's another example. So another example of comprehensive content. Lily Ray did an analysis of 550 sites that were affected by the recent Google update. And I went through and I had a look at them. Oh yeah, Claire, so she'll send it later. Thanks, Claire. So
she doesn't know that I asked you to say that so that she would demonstrate that she was still awake.
Hi, Claire. Definitely listening. Hi. So one of the things I had to look at that, and there was the New York Post, right, which is a perfectly reputable content producer. They dropped 35%. So they had a 35% reduction after the Google update. And if you go on their website, they've got plenty of comprehensive content, right? They've got tons of articles, and I know lots of people that I really rate who share their content all the time. However, if you go on the New York Post, and this is one of the reasons why I think this is a really important topic now, is because it doesn't cost anything, right? But to make decent to back up your content with like clout, right? So the New York Post has no about page. Like if you go to the New York Post, there is no about us page. Like there's not a thing that says, you know, we have an office in Manhattan and you know, Jeff works here. Or there's no nothing. There was another one, it was like Media Light or Mediaite or something like that. And again, they had a really thin content page. There was another one that got a boost. It was it was like I think it was like medicine.net or something to that effect. And I went through their about page, and their about page is like, this is our ethos, this is our content policy, this is these are the people that write for it, these are the people that verify it, this is what our, you know, this is where our office is, this is what it looks like this is what I have for breakfast, this is my mom, like this is like all of the things. So you know, there's within your content, so yes, of course your blog's really, really important, and making content is really, really important, but Google needs to be able to trace it back to you, right? And Google needs to be able to verify that you are who you say you are, and that you know the things that you say that you know. Yeah. So as well as having an about page, for instance, on your homepage, there's a really, really simple little thing that I do literally for every single client that I get as soon as I get them, which is on your homepage, you need to add your schema for what kind of business you are, right? So and you can do your organization, or you can do, there's special ones for lawyers. There's special ones for like NGOs or charities,
Yep.
that sort of thing. You're like, I know all of this. Yes, it's
true. No. I'm just sorry, active listening.
Right.
In sales, I can't help but nod.
Okay, so Google Ads shut down my ads. Well, I didn't see what that one said. What is schema? Okay, all right, two things. Okay, so
we'll come back to the ads one, Janine, and if we don't cover it, we'll get in touch and we can help you out with that. Not necessarily in a commercial way. Just don't.
So schema markup. Everyone here has seen schema markup. You might not know what it is by name, but you've all seen it. So if you've ever looked up vegan chocolate cake recipes, as I do a lot, then you will see those little recipe cards, right? And they'll say, BBC Food, Nigella's chocolate cake recipe, four stars, Jamie Oliver, 4 stars, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. All of those little recipe cards, those are all schema markup. If you look up like Cisco Systems, the network engineer people, which I'm sure we all have, and we spend lots of time on the Cisco Systems
I'm
website.
doing it all the time. It's my favorite research. Sometimes I'll just do it and I'll gaze at those results.
Go look at those network stacks.
Do you know what? Genuinely, because I'm old school, anything with a blue LED, because they didn't used to exist when I started in this job, man, blows my mind.
Okay, so quick tangent. The quick tangent is I did some schema markup, I did some keyword research for a firm that does network engineers. The serves network engineers, so they do those server towers and stuff like that. And and so I had to do keyword research. So I was looking up all lots of stuff from network engineers, and I found this picture of Flo Rida. The guy who sings the Apple Bottom Jeans song, and he's like doing a selfie with like a gang of network engineers he played at some conference or something, and they've all got on their lanyards. So now every time I hear that song, that's what I think of, is like network engineers. So anyway, to come back to it, so yeah, being able to verify who you are. So your schema markup. So if you go to Cisco, if you look up Cisco Systems on Google, then you will see a knowledge panel on the side, and it will say like Cisco Systems, and it will have their logo, and it will have their address, and it will have their CEO, and it will have like little things that say their social things and all that sort of stuff. That's because they have that information is on their site in their schema markup. The other thing that's good about this is that you can add your social channels. So let's say your website doesn't get very much traffic, but you're huge on Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. Or your website doesn't get that much traffic, but you've got a video on YouTube that's had tons and tons of views that is particular to your niche. Before it has been tricky to sort of connect those things, but if you add that schema to your website, then Google can connect those things, and it will give you a boost, and it will give your site more credibility, because Google can verify that those things are connected, because you literally within the schema it says same as, right? So you say like Cisco Systems same as at Cisco Systems on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever it is. Yeah. So that helps give you a boost, and I've seen this seen this happen time and time again. Again, another really easy win on credibility and content stuff is your Google My Business, which is like so key. I've had so many people have that verify, and again, that gives some grounding of who you are, where you are, what you do, and you can add in keywords and all that sort of stuff. It's super useful. Oh, there. Hi, Alistair. So these are really, really useful. So as well as making content that shows your expertise, you should also be able to back that expertise with your authority. And again, with other ways that you can do that is to also reach out and make sure that your profile is accessible. So things like your LinkedIn and things like connecting with other platforms via like Quora, for instance. So answering questions on Quora is really good. And I think we talked about Backlinko. Another person who's one of those kinds of guys is Neil Patel.
Oh yeah.
And he's all over Quora, yeah. for instance.
Kind of have to beat him off with a bit of a stick. No, Neil, I've heard your answer. Give me someone else speak.
Right. Oh, so Quora is Quora. So
Thanks.
Quora is a really good, it's a website where people ask questions and answer them. And in whatever niche you're in, there will be people asking questions and answering them on there. And if you run a business, you're almost certainly an expert in your field, because otherwise, what you doing? so and even if you're learning there's always going to be somebody who hasn't learned the thing that you know yet. So if you're able to answer those questions on Quora and make your profile, the other thing that's really useful is that Google has recently made the no-follow backlinks hints, which means that that adding those backlinks and putting your profile on those sorts of things is really useful. So
I think no follow's always been, regardless of what Google say, which is often how a lot of my discussions start, regardless of what they say.
Right.
And I've got nothing against Google, other than its inability to pay tax.
Right.
But regardless of what they say, I think like stuff like no follow, no index. No follow definitely has always seemed to me to be an advisory. Like it wants you to no follow ads. So we'll probably come out of this because we're deep diving into like a link thing. But that no follow thing, I think so, because actually it's something Nick said, who's not now on screen, but she was up here when I was having a conversation with Crystal earlier. Nick, my partner, who's the managing director of Noisy Little Monkey, she said years and years and years ago, she said, because she came into this from the civil service, and she was like that, I don't really understand this SEO stuff. And after about 2 years of her actually doing SEO stuff and going, oh, it's common sense, broadly speaking, with a bit of marketing nous, and a bit of geekiness, she said she was doing a talk at this place, and she just came out with this thing where she said, well, the whole algorithm for Google it's just a proxy for human trust. So it's not trying to, it doesn't want you to game the system. It doesn't want you to do anything, but just like you're describing, all of those little signals are just things that real humans want to know. Okay, who is behind this? And, if I go and look at their LinkedIn profile, are they connected to loads of people who are in a similar sphere and seem to be, do they get recommendations? And do those recommendations look legit, or do they all look like they're from, hundreds of miles away for this little local cafe? And Google's just trying to do that, right? That's what the algorithm is, or seems to be, or the algorithms. Obviously, we don't know how it works, and neither do they anymore. They just have to tell it wrong.
It's all. I mean, they whenever they have an update, they always refer to this document from like 2 years ago that says "just make great content."
Yeah,
and and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And they go, no, just make great content. And they also talk about their quality rater guidelines, which is what they tell the humans at Google to look for. And all of those things say that you should have main content that is thorough, that is clear, and also that you should be emphasizing your expertise, your authority, and your trust. And trust comes from being transparent. Authority is people who so I have a client who got hit by the January update, and then they actually got a boost off of the March update because we did a lot of work on their authority. So they previously didn't have, I think they're BSI certified, blah, 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 blah. And they are very authoritative. They know all of the stuff. They are completely like up to, they're fantastic.
But they were just failing to demonstrate that online?
On their site, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, here's a link to their BSI thing or whatever. And this time they got a 5% boost, which is really, really useful. So yeah, I think that sort of stuff doesn't cost tons of money. Like that's when we talk about money, uncertainty, opportunity. So the opportunity is that you can boost the, your presence by making these genuine connections, and between things, the work you've already done, like if you are CIM certified, then put that on your page. Like if you are, and put that on your LinkedIn, and put that in, if you've got, if you won awards, or if you've been written up somewhere, put those things on your website, and things, and with the uncertainty, having someone.
Well, let's not go too far into uncertainty and opportunity. Let's come back to money.
Okay,
because
money.
One of the things that you mentioned there was the CIM, the professional associations, and all of that kind of stuff. The reason I wanted to grab you before we went further on, partially was because we so often talk to our clients, be they big or small, and they're like, we've got a ranking problem or whatever, right? And so we look at their website, and technically it's okay, and there's hundreds of factors all over the place. You and I know that. Maybe not everybody knows it in quite the detail, but there's hundreds of factors. And then you go, oh, but when we looked up your name, we saw that you were, you're a fellow of the Digital Marketing Centre, right, and you're a member of your local Chamber of Commerce and the British Chamber of Commerce. And actually, you're also a member of the British Chamber of Commerce in, I don't know, Beijing. And none of those have links or architects. They've all got links. They've all got a hole for your website and no one's bothered to fill it in. You just pay the subscription. Or architects or any professional body that have a directory. I see those all the time. And they're like that, yeah, it's very hard for us to get backlinks. And I'm like that, well, you've got 50 people who've got a link from Reba. All you need to do is maybe you create the page for that person, because that kind of is a better trust signal than just linking to your homepage. But if it's, Darren Stevenson, who's one of your architects, and he's got all of his Reba stuff up to date, well, stick his LinkedIn in there and stick in his about me page on your website. And then if you still use Schema and do same as, things start to really rock and roll, right?
Boom. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that sort of stuff you don't need to do a giant campaign for that. You don't need to do an extra ad spend for that. That is putting the work, the time and effort that you've invested in, becoming an expert or becoming good at your job. That's putting that to work online. And you don't have to be obnoxious about it. You don't I'm the best ever. But just make sure that when people want to know whether or not you're the person for the job, like that they can see that. And that Google can see that, and so that helps boost everything that you do online. And that's really important. And I think that particularly now, with budgets being tight and things like that, there's never been a better time to sort of go through and make the use of those resources. In your team, and everyone in your, I imagine if you're at your company, everybody in your team is, a rock star, and you should make sure that people know that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we see is, I'm just writing a quick message to Joseph to tell him this will be available on demand later. One of the things we see more for the professional services, or anything, or services like ours, like agency services that you and I do, is the About Us page, and then being able to click on someone and see about them specifically. When we look at the Google Analytics for any law firm that has a page and a directory for their solicitors, the solicitors' actual personal profiles, as dull as they are and as appalling as the photos normally are the most popular pages. And it's always the one that they tell us they want to get rid of. We have a directory, but actually we don't want the pages about the people because they're really difficult to stay up to date. And we normally just go, well, here's your analytics. We've not done anything yet, but these are the biggest converting pages on your website. Or they get the most traffic, maybe from LinkedIn or from Google or whatever. But yeah, funny stuff. Stuff.
The other thing about, and I've done SEO for solicitors as well. And the other thing that's really interesting is that the names of the solicitors are almost always ranking. They're almost always like number one. So if you get rid of those pages, then for John Stevenson or whatever, the solicitor at law, then you're losing a bunch of number one ranking keywords, and that's just silliness. And also if you're doing, if one of your acts as a team is to do lots of networking, when we're able to socialize, but if you do lots of networking, then that's a place to send people. That's a place to sort of bring it in, because people will, particularly with a high contact service, like a solicitor where it's quite personal, or an accountant or whatever it may be, you're going to making sure that you've got a good page that people can sort of find out more details about that person is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, there's always some exceptions that prove the rule, and the two, I've got three, and one is the same exception, and I'm not going to mention their name, but they both still work for clients who are currently clients of Noisy Little Monkey. two solicitors that we know share their name with a porn star. So that's really difficult to make them rank.
Right.
And also we're like that. You know what? Don't tell people just to search your name. Give out your LinkedIn details. And then the other one, I had an accountant come up to me at an event once and he said, I've got a real problem where I don't rank for my own name. And I'm like that. Oh, this is going to be easy. You've got no index in your website or something. I'm like that.
Right.
And what's your name? And he said, David Cameron.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm like that. Well, wait 10 years.
Right. An initial? Maybe you could do an initial.
So Ian Harvey actually has asked the question, do people really work on the About Us page? Does telling the story as a whole about the business not work generally? I think actually, Ian, you ask a good question. What do you think, Crystal? I'm about to spout into that, but
I think yes and is what I think in my experience. So yeah, that's a yes and not a no but. I think basically people want to know the business and what's behind that, but you also need to know that that you can find the people, so that if somebody's looking up, if someone's looking up Claire Dibben and that noisy little monkey, that they can find her. And also, having people on the site. I had a client who didn't have any of their team on their site. And I was like, you need to do that. Because again, Google needs to know that it's not, that this whole site isn't run by some bot somewhere, that you're not just some egg person on Twitter. Like, you have to be a real actual person, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have every single social profile. You don't need a TikTok necessarily, but
and you don't necessarily need every employee, right? But you do want you probably do want everybody key. So we've got Chris Taylor has said it adds authenticity. Thanks, Chris. I think Crystal and I agree. Ian Harvey has asked the age-old question, does it not work as a poacher's charter? He hasn't asked that. I've never heard it put like that before. That is beautiful use. Thank you for that. You know what? I always say to people, what I always say is, well, if they're going to leave, they're going to leave. They're going to get headhunted via LinkedIn. They're going to get headhunted via somewhere. Treat them well. Pay them okay. I've said pay them okay because I know noisy little monkey people are on this call. Never pay them well. God damn. But yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
We're now getting comments from them. But yeah, I would say, Pete, I would, just because we need to move on, I'll be brief and say, I think, and we'll see whether Crystal agrees, that if you've got a person of import on your page, on your website, that I would definitely say that should probably link to their LinkedIn profile. And I would also argue that their LinkedIn profile should link back to that personal specific page on your website, because that's not a link popularity thing. It's not going to get you a boost from Google for that, but it is going to help Google understand that entity, that human being that works for part of your business. What do you reckon, Crystal? Does that sound?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And also like, so for instance, let's say you've got John Smith at Smith Solicitors or something like, well, maybe not Smith Solicitors, I don't know, Brown Solicitors or something. And you have them on your page now. Your page ranks for that term. And historically Google knows that your page ranks for that term, then that history will stay there for a bit, even if they move. The other thing is that if on LinkedIn, the history of their jobs will show on there, and your firm will be listed amongst their job history. And so if there are people who are looking, because LinkedIn pulls up lots of different results for your current jobs, your old jobs, all that sort of stuff. And even if they do move on to, and hopefully if somebody does move on, they move on to something better, and like not necessarily better, but maybe more high profile, maybe more high profile or something like that. Like a bigger firm or something like that. And that will again put you in that league, that you're the kind of company that people is comparable to that firm. So let's say, I don't know, you go from Smith Solicitors to some like global solicitor firm or something like that, that your team can compete,
can make that jump.
Can make that jump. That speaks highly of you. You shouldn't be afraid of that. And also, those, you know, if you've had those people building content on your website and you have those terms still on your, you know, their names still on your website, again, that's another thing that will help build the credibility for your team.
Yeah, yeah. So what about some, how do we deal with, so there were loads of ideas about so let me summarize briefly, utilizing your current professional memberships and associations, utilizing your any awards and all of that kind of stuff, utilizing your people pages and their I guess their social currency and in your sector are some of the easy ways that you don't have to go and make a whole load of money, pay a whole load of money to get people to do. You can just make that happen right now. Anecdotally, I don't have any data to support this other than probably hundreds of analytics accounts where when we do all of those things that we've just described, we will see a boost in rankings. And okay, correlation, causation, there might be all sorts of other things that happen. But the being transparent, sharing that stuff makes a big difference to your SEO, in my belief, and also your conversion rate optimization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've seen that, you know, I've seen that happen both. I've seen it actually increase the conversions and to increase rankings. For one client, I've also seen on again for this last Google update, I had 2 clients who you know, who increased their ranking because we did this, and I had another one who also increased their visibility when we didn't update their about page. Their about page was fine, but that schema stuff that I was talking about with adding in all of the sort of, with all of the sort of cross-pollinating all of those sorts of social profiles and bringing those all together, we did that work for their site as well. So adding all of those in a sort of, you know, I'm not sure what the best word is for it is, but bringing all of those elements together can really make a difference, and it makes all of the content that you make that much more valid and that much more important and that much more and it helps you reach it better. And I think if I can go into the uncertainty point, building that trust now in a space where there's a lot of uncertainty and people aren't sure, you know, about what's going to happen, and if they can trust you and if they know you and they can verify that you know who you are, or that you know what you're talking about, you know what's going on, then that is really reassuring, and that makes them more likely to go with you than to go with someone who is hiding behind, you know, not enough information, who, you know, doesn't have any content out there. You can't find their LinkedIn page. You can't find, you know, a phone number or a face or anything on their website. You know, why would you in this state of play, why would you sign up with someone like that? I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's that age-old adage, people buy from people. Like, and particularly, even more so as we are all more savvy about making sure that we don't just go for someone who describes themselves as, you know, Globo Corp, and we can service all of your requirements for all of the things and simply send us the money to this address. That's not, maybe that worked in 2003 for about 10 minutes.
Right. And I mean, to talk about the content point, like, that's another thing I think people forget, that like reviews are content. Like most, like, you know, and Google looks at reviews for keywords and stuff. So like if you're on like Amazon, if you're searching for something on Amazon, a lot of the times you'll see it because of all the conversations that are happening in the keywords. So responding to reviews, for instance, is a really useful way to both increase content and also to increase your authority and expertise points. So if people are asking you questions about your product or your services, and you're saying we're the best and we can service and blah 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 blah, and then somebody comes on and they're going, you know, I didn't get the thing that I wanted, or they're saying, well, I don't understand why this is that way, and you're able to respond to them on TripAdvisor or on Google My Business or you know, Glassdoor or whatever those things, or whatever, you know, things come up. Then this is all helpful stuff. And again, it doesn't cost money; it just takes time. So
yeah, exactly. And hey, we've probably got more of it because most of us are in lockdown. And actually that plays well to uncertainty, doesn't it? Making sure that you're getting reviews, and even again, service businesses can get reviews. You can do it with automation a little bit. So send out your NPS thing that you send out to NPS email that you send out to everybody, and anybody who comes back and gives you 5 stars on that, send them another email saying review us on Google My Business. But don't send it to anybody who gives you 3 stars or below. What we always recommend. A bit left field and not necessarily relevant to uncertainty, but Paul Marshall asks, should content be written in the first or the third person? And we're asking a literature graduate that, so I'm glad you put that.
Okay, so what I would say is that your content should be customer centric. My favorite so always think about both what you're talking about and why it's of value to your customer. So one really good example, and they've had to change. I know we've been rambling. They've had to change, some of the content because of the lockdown and everything. But the gym group is the copy on their website is phenomenal, actually. And it's not very long. It's very snappy, but they explain a thing and they explain why it's a value. So they'll say, we have lots of equipment so that you don't have to wait. We're open all these hours so that you can exercise anytime you want. We have this and that because of blah, blah, blah. And it goes all the way through literally everything they do. So I think you should make sure that it's customer centric at all times, so that you're appealing to what your customers need. Don't just say, we're great, we're fantastic, this is amazing. Explain why that's important to them. We've trained and we've been working on this project because we want to bring you something that's fantastic. That sort of thing. So always make sure that you've got a clear understanding of your value.
Cool. We are going to run over by about 10 minutes tops, everybody. I think probably any of that. Sorry about that. I just love listening to Crystal's lovely lilt and her really good advice. Customer centric content is great. Absolutely perfect answer to that first or third person question. Let's have a quick look at what's the opportunity, because we didn't really talk about money or uncertainty in that kind of specific way. We just kind of said, here's a load of ideas you can go and execute tomorrow. And got a lot of pushback a little bit, or not a lot, but we got some pushback, which is normally good because I like challenging. That works. So what opportunity are you seeing for people now and in the future, Crystal?
So I think what we've been seeing is with all of the changes going on, and with change being the state of play for the next few months, there is an incredible opportunity with regards to content. So again, if you're able to demonstrate yourself as a trustworthy source, which I'm sure that you are, but as long as you're able to just to make sure that it's very clear that that you're trustworthy and that you're of use, then there are a lot of opportunities to be of service to your customers. So I think of like Joe Wicks, for instance, is a really good example. So I'd never heard of Joe Wicks before lockdown, but he is now providing a really valuable service that is of use to people in this time of uncertainty. We have clients. I have a client who's a solicitor client, and they created a knowledge hub that is particularly dealing with the questions that people are asking now about what's going on with the world now. And last month, I ran the numbers at the end of the month. Last month, one of their blogs had more hits than their homepage, because it was ranking #1 for 3 different terms. All about and like higher than gov.uk, all about important things for this time, because they're talking about now. And I think the other opportunity I've in the blog that I sent to Claire is Google Trends. So if you look on Google Trends, people are searching for terms that they've never searched before. So this is like fresh, unfettered, open field with regards to content and copy and that sort of thing. And obviously be tasteful, and don't just like make up content for no reason. Like, be tasteful, be respectful of the situation, and be of service to your clients. But you know, nobody was looking for like COVID or coronavirus. And there were very few people looking up herd immunity before all of this lockdown. You know, there's all the quarantini, like there's all these new words that have emerged, and all these new phrases that are social distancing. That's another one. You know, these are things that weren't in place before. So there are opportunities to help your clients because they need, you know, people are needing help right now. People need support. People need to feel reassured, need to feel that, you know, they can do different things, or that they can do the things they need to do. So yeah, there's tons of opportunities there. And I think in the thing I shared, the blog I shared, I also shared where you can find that sort of thing. So Google Trends is a really good one. Also looking on the history of your web page's search. So if people are coming to your website and they're searching for delivery and they're not finding it, then you should be doing delivery. Like,
yeah. I love it when site search invents new products or invents new ways of delivering service. Yeah.
Right. The people want it. Give the people what they want. Yeah. So, you know, that's a really, really useful one. And also, I shared some other ones, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah.
If only your laptop wasn't sitting beside you dead.
I thought, you have to remind me. I thought we'd been doing so well.
You know what? I think the funny thing is one of the things you said in one of the emails you sent over was about making sure that people focus on the customer, and you've referred to that a couple of times. And we tend to call it buyer persona because we're HubSpot, and that's the kind of language we use. Yeah. But you've mentioned it a few times, and actually, when you talk about your solicitor company that you've got with great rankings, outranking gov.uk sites, absolutely wonderful. But that content that you have encouraged them to create, because I suspect you weren't able to write all of it, they normally have to get their little legal selves involved. That if you're able to create that content with your team that is relevant to your buyer personas right now, that's the opportunity right now to make money in the future. Even if you're not selling them something right now, you're being conscious of their situation. I think that's just like, that fits me like a glove, just because that's how we operate. And there are lots of other ways that you can do it, and or you can game the system, but none of it feels quite as authentic. And it's like, could you want to look yourself in the mirror in the morning and go, well, I just built some links that weren't really relevant, and I can get away with that for another month, and then I need to build some more. Right. Or do you want to do great content that attracts links and think about how Carrie Rose then takes that further and goes, well, actually, this is the content we'll do. See you, Paul. Thank you for coming along. What I'm going to do is go and launch our next poll real quick before everybody goes. If you would like to talk to Crystal or myself further about this, click yes on that poll. If you wouldn't, click no. That is fine. And then we'll follow up and we will try and book an appointment with one of us. That's the carry on the conversation thing. We are running over, so I'm going to end it there. I suspect we'll have to have Crystal Carter part 2 because you've got so much useful stuff to talk to help us all. Thanks for coming, everybody. Go find Crystal on the web. That's her Twitter. Seeing a couple of calls for part 2, definitely. That's what we like. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us this week and giving us all of that useful info.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Anytime.
It's been a real pleasure. Next week, guys, we have Ayat Shakiri from Invesp, who knows so much about CRO, and her talk is Hope Is Not a Strategy. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. Lots of part 2 would be good. Lots of questions for part 2 with you, Crystal. Early warning, we are running the Bristol HubSpot user group. It's going to be kind of an SEO content workshop because that's what we're famous for at HubSpot. So we're going to get some people along to do that. If you want to see more of these, and if you want to see the recording of this one, go to that. We'll create a call to action that's that on our website one day, but we haven't got it yet. Bookmark this. Do not go there now and try and register for the next one because it's not up there yet. But bookmark this, and please like and share any content that you found here. Share it on Twitter. Share your favorite quote, attribute Crystal, obviously, and subscribe to our newsletter, because to get people like Crystal in the room, to give you people great ideas, we need lots of people coming along. So share it with your mates, share it with your peers, and we appreciate you sharing your time with us today. We realise there's lots of webinars you could have gone to, and you chose this one. Thank you. And thank you, Crystal. Bye.
Thank you.